Everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamer Dad channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we have Tom Clancy's The Division on the chopping block, and I wanted to go ahead and point out a few more pertinent things to the community outright regarding The Division and the future of the game, especially the future of the franchise. Now, I know it seems like the way that the developers had been quiet and the way we didn't get any content for a whole year, it seems as if there's no longer a future for the Division franchise. I'm here to say that I don't think that that's the case, and it might as well be that there's no future for the franchise, but I think it's very hard to kind of, believe that based on a lot of what we have in front of us. Now, what I'll try to do in this video is pretty much talk about, basically what they've shown to be coming very soon and why I think the steps that are being taken by the developers, especially by Yannick, is somewhat indicative that this particular franchise has some sort of a future that's mapped out within Ubisoft Massive. Now, a lot of these points, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're new points. I've actually made videos discussing a lot of them in the past, but in light of all of what we're going to be talking about very soon in the next few months with the PTS, with the new game mode, with the new changes that are coming, I think it's very important that we continue to remind ourselves and remind our community as to what it is that we need to expect. So here's something that is a change that has happened a while ago. In fact, I don't even know when this change happened, but it didn't seem like we emphasized nor talked about it a lot in the community. And that change is that Yannick is the creative director for the Division game at Ubisoft Massive. Now, here's the really interesting thing. There are, to my knowledge, 3 creative directors in Ubisoft Massive. Now, there might be another creative director that could be working on some kind of a project on the down low, but we don't know anything about such. So the creative directors that we know are Yannick, we know Julian Garrity, and we know Magnus Jensen. Now, I'm going back to these because Magnus Jensen is the creative director for Tom Clancy's The Division 1, the game that you're seeing here on the screen. Magnus Jensen was the creative director for that particular game. Julian Garrity was the creative director for The Division 2. And so you already had these two people that had already been the creative directors within the studio and had already basically launched 2 games. After the Division 1 launch, it seemed like Massive pursued some kind of an enterprise to work on Avatar, and they gave that project to Magnus Jensen to carry on. So I've seen a lot of Division agents say, oh, I don't think Avatar is going to be a fun game. Well, you might want to pay attention to that. And this is something we've talked about in other videos. But again, what's more important here is not just the fact that we have 3 creative directors, is the fact that somebody like Yannick has been given the role of a creative director. And in my understanding, anybody that is fulfilling that role is more than likely, in a sense, positioned to deliver a full-fledged game from Massive Ubisoft. Now, this is a very important thing because, like I said, Magnus Jensen delivered the Division 1 and is right now about to deliver Avatar. Julian Garrity delivered the Division 2 and is right now positioning himself to start building a team for a Star Wars game that Ubisoft announced. And Yannick is now a creative director. And so we don't necessarily know exactly what it is that he's building, other than he is, in a sense, over the Division 2 currently under Ubisoft Massive. Now, I'm making these very clear distinctions because I want to make sure that we separate everything from what Red Storm is doing as well with Heartland. And so what this tells us is, at best, there is a Division 3 game or another game that Yannick is working on. It could be another game that's not a Division game. I mean, that's a big, huge possibility. Or the Division 2 seems to have some sort of continuity in the mind of Massive. They might be working on some kind of a big, huge, I would say, return or some kind of big, huge overturn of the game or overhaul or whatever it is that you want to call it. That could be something that brings a lot of players back to the game. You see, there are a whole lot of different things that players have been asking for a long time. It might be possible for us to get some of these things like cross saves. You see, right now, I've started Division 2 accounts on every single platform that's available to me, including Stadia. And one really painful thing is I can't carry my progress across the board. I have to start afresh every time I basically go to a new platform. And sometimes this could be really tedious. For a game as bulky as the Division and the Division 2, I think this is a very core functionality that Massive probably needs to try their best to implement in the Division 2 as a game. Now, remember when Destiny 2 did its own overhaul? There was a huge announcement. There was a lot of marketing alongside it. And I didn't think that it was actually going to be a big deal, but eventually became a big deal. And so it's not a matter of all hope being lost for Massive. It's still a possibility. But knowing Ubisoft, who are very different from the way Bungie actually ran their own campaign, I think a new game is more likely for them because that's usually how they roll. They'll churn out a lot of these new games, and eventually we'll find ourselves in a position where we're basically playing Tom Clancy's The Division potentially in another known city that's not fictional in a sense. So I think The Division is basically going to continue in terms of the storyline from 1 to 2, and then perhaps another Division game, maybe 3, or maybe the idea that Joey Garrity pretty much just alluded to one time where he talked about a Division single player game kind of a while ago. It was kind of in a casual conversation. But let me tell you something that's also quite important about this particular move, and that is the fact that Yannick himself is one of those kinds of personalities that doesn't necessarily mince too much in the way that his presentation is. Let me give you one example that's right here. So he pretty much on November 9th just put out a statement saying, "Agents, I want to make sure that you have the right expectations heading into the final confrontation with Fei Lao. I see speculations that this return will come with alterations to the narrative. It won't. Season 7 End of Watch is an identical rerun of Season 4 End of Watch." And then he says our storyline will continue with the new season coming in February. So this is his communication style. He usually cuts to the chase. He usually lays out whatever it is that he is able to lay out. And I think this is one reason a lot of the community really kind of resonates with Yannick. Another thing too is a matter of trust that's been built over years. So if you're listening in Ubisoft, hear ye. Yannick is somebody that the community knows very well. We've known him since the days of the Division 1 when he was basically doing a whole bunch of logistics for State of the Game. I don't even remember what his role was in Division 1. It wasn't until Division 2 I even knew that he was the Associate Creative Director for the Division 2. So he's someone that's been in the pipeline for all this while, and so he's a face to the name, The Division. In fact, if you actually ask the most recognizable face of any, developer or community developer within the Division franchise, it's Yannick and then Hamish, which Hamish has moved to Ubisoft Stockholm. Hamish, you need to come back to Massive if it's possible, man. I mean, I get it. But like I said, the recognition of the face to the particular franchise is a big deal. So these are some things that I feel like we need to pay attention to, especially this one. This is one I would say to everyone in the community, put a pin on this one because the implications are huge, and I believe strongly that there will be some level of, I would say, I don't know how to put it, but it's just something that you have to basically not just ignore, because everything that may be going on is just smokes and screens. These companies, and especially Massive Ubisoft, are very, very secretive. So even if Yannick is working on something, or even if he's not, they'll still be secretive about it. But I doubt that he's not working on something. I doubt that he doesn't have a team that, is being, in a sense, trained, or, a team that's, taking over the reins of what the next Division franchise would look like, while some other developers have already moved to other projects. Now, one other thing that's quite interesting in all of these conversations is one particular developer that's been in the Division 1 pipeline for a long time, and that's Drew. And I've not heard anything from him in any sense. He's very quiet. He comes on Twitter once in a never. He never even tweets anything. And he's one of the AI designers and developers for the Division game, and I don't know what project is on right now. If you ask me what project is on, no one has alluded anything to it. So he could be in the new Star Wars project. He could have maybe in a sense helped with the Avatar project to some extent, or he could be still working on the Division. But it'll be really interesting to know where developers like that are. But we'll continue this conversation later on. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Thank you so much for time and audience. Peace out.